There she is, I see her! That's my wife, Chelsea. Oh, I put it way under the spotlight at the wrong time. Don't look that way! She's taking care of my baby. You betcha. I got 4 of them now, which is terrifyingly wonderful. Yay! Praise ya! Anybody else terrified of children? Oh yeah, come on. All these dads, I love it. You're honest men. It's better that you be honest about the fact that we were not ready. None of us are ready to be dads. So hey, bear with us, because I might have to peel out of here in a minute. You know what I'm saying? There could be poop explosions and screaming babies. We love them. Don't you be embarrassed at all. My babies scream constantly. Sometimes so I'm delirious with exhaustion and fury. It's great. But I am so fired up to be here, and you know what? I've been waiting my entire life for the opportunity to meet people that are so passionate that they're willing to transform themselves out of the pattern of this world. And they're willing to be transformed by the renewing of their mind so they can know what is the will of our Father. What is His desire for our life? What were we made for? What is your purpose? We are raised in a world that will not tell you that answer to it because they tell you you're worthless. You're an endless speck of nothingness. You're a happen chance. You're a freak accident. But you know what? It is a lie. And you know what? There is a generation that's rising up right now amidst these days and these seasons who is casting off the lies that we inherited from our fathers. And you know what? Praise be to Yah, because we inherited the kingdom of the dark prince. But you know what? Yahweh has appointed each of us for life. He's not willing that any of us should perish, but that all of us should come to know Him. He is willing to long suffer with us, because you know what? We're those ridiculous children that drive us crazy, and we drive Him all kinds of frustrated. And you know what? There was a curse that was pronounced on us because there are people that have turned to that darkness and embraced it so steadily that He said, I am not going to listen to your screams anymore. When you cry out to me, I will not answer you. And you know what? We are children that have inherited these lies because people were willing to lay themselves down. Hey, I just ask you all be quiet and be respectful. Thank you. This is one of those things we got to learn in life. Okay? Please be respectful and quiet. Children, I understand. Little children have an excuse. Most of you are not without excuse, all right? There's people who have labored very diligently for y'all to have this experience because we believe you're treasure of Yah, and you deserve to experience what it's like to be around brothers and sisters who love you and understand you and will not mock you and scoff at you and pass you through the scourge of public trials. But you know what? You have all been transformed because you are willing to lay up for yourselves treasures not on this earth, but treasures in heaven, where rust and moth will not destroy. And you know what? This is our opportunity to gather together in fellowship. And I understand it's super exciting to talk to each other. But you know what? I'm going to read the word right now, and I am trying to diligently train myself and my children to be respectful when people read the word. Because you know what? People gave everything for you to hear this. Everything. This has been guarded. This is the most precious thing that you could ever pass on to anybody, is the value of what is in this book. These words. It is all about this word. And you know what? I did not start with a precious regard for this word. But you know what? I started seeing brave men and women who had a very serious devotion to it. And they were willing to totally become undone, disintegrated, shattered, for the sake of something they found so important, they were willing to give up their lives. And it's easy to die for this. It's very hard to keep living for what it says to do. That is the real death that we're called to. It is the death of the old man and the old woman. And if you do not die, you know what? There's going to come a judgment that will destroy you utterly, and you will never be raised to fullness of life that you're supposed to have. And I have been given a duty to warn my brothers and sisters that you know what? There is wonderful things waiting in store for you if you will turn from the ways of wickedness and you will embrace the ways of life. And you know what? This is the words that got me there. Jeremiah 6, hey, raise your hand if you have an actual Bible with you. Raise it high. Like you brought your sword for battle. Come on. Yeah. You see that? That's called a sword test, y'all. You know, all the time I like to knife check people because I love carrying super sharp, savage blades all the time. And one of the ways I do that is I ask people, I say, knife check. You, go. Oh, it's too far. Nope. Knife check. Yeah, I got past. Yeah. Did you? Oh, this guy. The Mighty Maccabees. Yes. This is one of those sharp arrows right here. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yes. And if you're caught without your knife, you're going to owe me a treasure. Or you're going to owe somebody else a treasure. Now Hollis owes me a treasure.
Which night?
Which night? Ah, savage.
Come on now.
He's all double-dorded. There you go. But you know what? There is a reason that this is something that should be guarded fiercely. Jeremiah 6:16. Ready? Come on. This is called a sword drill. Anybody grow up in schools where they talk about the Bible? Raise your hand. Anybody? No, look at that. That's crazy. Really? Really? Yahweh, that's right.
That's 16?
I grew up in a school, one of the schools I went to, and we used to do this thing called sword drills. Anybody heard of this? Okay, you ready? Get set? I'm going to tell you a memory verse or a Bible verse, and if you get there before me, you raise your hand, and then you're going to read it as loud as you possibly can. If you can't read loudly, don't. You know what I'm saying? Read as loud as I'm talking, okay? Who wants to do it? Who's ready?
That's 6:16.
6:16. Maybe, we'll see.
Thus said Yahweh, stand in the ways and see, and ask for the old path, where the good way is, and walk in it, and find rest for yourselves. But they said, we do not walk in it.
Do you hear that? Tell me if you could hear that in the back. We'll read it again. Ready? It says, stand and show me the ancient past. Ready? This is Yahuwah talking to us. Because Jeremiah was a guy who was screaming out in the forest like crazy, begging people to remember that there was a way of living that would lead them to life. And all the rest of the nation was telling him, go that way. And he was saying there's only one way in and one way out. And if you don't go that way, all of you are set to destruction. Jeremiah 6:16. Thus said Yahuwah, stand in the ways and see and ask for the ancient past, where the good way is, and walk in it and find rest for yourselves. But they said, I do not walk in it. There's people all around us who are looking at the ways that we're setting ourselves apart, and they're saying, we're not going to walk in it. That we refuse. They are hardening themselves. Like Pharaoh, when the word of Yah came to them boldly, they hardened themselves and resisted. But you know what? We need to intercede diligently for our brothers and sisters because we, like them, were going astray. We were without hope and without a promise. But you know what? There is a good news that has been promised to us. A Savior before the foundations of the world were laid. The deliverance was promised, and it was prepared for us. These are the people who have sacrificed for us to know the truth and know how do we get out of this mess. How do we get out? We are outnumbered and outgunned on every side. They're poisoning our food, our water, our air that we breathe. They are systematically eradicating wisdom from our midst. They are targeting our children. They have raised up generations who don't know the day or the time or the season. We don't even know the first things about how to raise a family, nor how to walk in truth. But you know what? This is why we always have a firm foundation to turn back to. When everything else fails, when you are falling on your face like Linden and Ruth were just singing, and you fall on your face and said, I will wait for you. I will wait for you. He will assuredly answer you. Jeremiah 16:16. You ready? Go. See, I'm sending for many fishermen, declares Yahuwah, and they shall fish for them. Does that sound like somebody you ever heard of talking about fishing for men? Come on now. Come on now. Fundamentals, right? Yeah. But then there's this other people. Check this out. Scary dudes. Scary dudettes showing up. And after that, I shall send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks, for my eyes are on all their ways. They have not hidden from my face, nor has their crookedness been hidden from my eyes. And first I shall repay double for their crookedness and their sin, because they've defiled my land with the dead bodies of their disgusting matters, and have filled my inheritance with their abominations. Oh, Yahuwah, my strength, my stronghold and my refuge. In the day of distress, the nations shall come to you from the ends of the earth and say, our fathers have inherited only falsehood, vanity, and there's no value in them. Would a man make mighty ones for himself, which are not mighty ones? Therefore, see, I am causing them to know this time. I cause them to know my hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is Yahuwah. Wow. This is the prophesied days of deliverance that we have waited for, we have longed for, and you know where they're found? In men. In the hearts of men. And you know what? That's a mighty man. Yeah. Because all of you still have the fear of men hiding in the shadows that keeps you from crying out and saying, hallelujah! Hallelujah! But there's little ones who are here who have been given to us and entrusted to us The most precious treasure of the earth has been entrusted to you in the forms of these children. Those of you who have not children, you know what? There's a lot of orphans. I am without father and mother in this earth. I am an orphan, but you know what? Yahweh adopted me. He loves me, and he fought for me, and he delivered me from the disgusting matters that were abominating the land. I was raised in a family that committed those abominable acts. I was raised in a family that sold me, sold my body, and trafficked me around this country, and defiled people, and blackmailed and corrupted them through my flesh and through my tears. And you know what? These are the disgusting matters that are taking place in our fellowships, in our churches, in our schools, in our judges' offices. There is corruption riddling this land. But you know what? There is a deliverer who is waiting. He's called the chief shepherd. And you know what shepherds do? They kill wolves. Dang right. There's a shepherd right over there. A whole family of them. Bobby, he's all looking behind him like there's somebody else. Right there. You know what that is? That's called meekness. They're standing in your midst. And you know what they wrangle? Animals that will kill you dead, son. Kill you dead. The mighty Aleph, the buffalo. They're the buffalo hunters right there. They keep them alive till they put them to the slaughter. They're amazing. You know why? Because there's good shepherds in the room. That's why our children are safe right now. But you know what? Right over there, danger. Right over here, danger. There's still wolves in here, y'all. Let me show you something. That's why I made this. Right here. You see this? Hey, what is this? A spear. You know what its name is? Methuselah. You betcha. That's literally what his name means. Right here. Why was Methuselah, who lived a long time? Who knows how long Methuselah lived? I will give you a treasure. Ready?
600 years? 969.
Who knows it?
Well, that's according to Ken. Nathan, a trillion years.
A trillion? Not quite, buddy. Hang in there.
9,000.
Who can find the verse and test it? You see this? Instead of just giving in and we all agree, we don't know, right? I don't know. It's not like I actually have the answer. True story. Oh! You should check, right? Sword drill. Not your phone! Can't use your phone. Oh, I'm like that. I'm like that. Next time I'm going to bring a cell phone jammer, y'all. I'm dead serious. I'm going to shut you down. If it's an emergency, you can go to the parking lot. Y'all chuckling. You think it's funny. I used to do crazy stuff, y'all. Hunt and kill people all over this country. And you know what? Cell phone jammers will ruin your day. You think you've had a scary day? Wait till people show up and turn off everything. That's a scary day. The Night Stalkers, they're called. They show up with little helicopters and make everybody disappear. It's a real thing, and it's coming for a lot of people. But you know what's so good? Yahuwah says, I am your shield. Your exceedingly great reward. He says, when your ways are pleasing before him, he makes even your enemies to be at peace with you. So be glad and rejoice. That's the armor I put on now. In that little black case right there behind that man who is sitting there so comfortably. That used to carry all kinds of deadly tools that I drug around this country and used for slaughter. You know what it carries now? All this kind of equipment that I used to slaughter. It's amazing. Yahweh can transform your talents and your abilities and give you a purpose. Because what the enemy intended for evil, Joseph said, Yahweh intended for good and the saving of many lives. Some of you are made to go and save those lives. And you know what the children are looking for? Mighty men of valor. We need Gibbery. That's the word. People used to say it's giants and tyrants. You know what it is? Brave, valiant warriors. Yahweh is called Gibor, El Gibor, the mighty and valiant warrior. And you know what? I was raised in a society that sissified my creator. They made him all soft and soggy and showed him always naked and decrepit, miserable and dying. I was like, that's what my Savior looks like? He looks weak. Why do I want anything to do with the weak deliverer? Why do I want anything to do with the weak man? I've seen plenty of weak men. We've been chemically castrated. We've been poisoned from the days of our youth. But you know what? Yahweh has appointed so many of us for raising up mighty men and mighty women of valor. And I started to encounter these really freaky people. These strange people that had this zealousness. They had some fire in their stomachs. And you know what they weren't doing with it? Merchandising it. We cannot be found guilty of the merchants of death. We cannot take these talents and these gifts and these treasures he's given us and turn and cause usury on our brothers and sisters and extort from them and steal from them and take our talents that he's given us for anything other than to seek his face and to seek to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples. We're supposed to be replicating ourselves. And if you all haven't found people that are near you or around you who you can hug and hold and be near to, you know what? We have online communities for this time in the season where you can utilize that. And it is a blessing. And that is literally what brought us here. Because we were sojourners. We were cast off. We left everything behind because I was not willing that anybody would destroy my daughter Naomi. I didn't want anybody to have access to her that I knew. I was not willing to let her suffer what I suffered. You know what? And that meant we lost everything. And hallelujah. The greatest freedom I ever found was losing everything for something that was worth it. Because you know what? Every day people sacrifice for worthless idols. Every day they go bow down at the altar of convenience. They go bow down at the altar of air conditioning. And they're willing to just do anything to keep their creature comforts. But you know what? Yahweh's people are made to get uncomfortable. We were made to experience long suffering. That's why if you have children, you know exactly what I'm saying, y'all. Dadgummit, lots of suffering. Lots of it. Soggy, exhausting suffering raising children. Great joy, right? There's super highlight reels people put on Facebook. You're like, wow, that family looks so happy. Why am I so miserable? Why are you all in my life? Why? And then you're like, oh yeah. So you know what? My wife and I try to be authentically, seriously miserable with y'all sometimes. We are not anything worth idolizing. We are just a couple of nobodies who found a somebody who changed us forever. And you know what? Because of that, she looks nothing like she did when I met her. Praise Yah. I look nothing like I did when she met me. Praise Yah. We were wrecked, man. I was eating out of trash cans a lot. A lot. She has to teach me basic hygiene stuff, like don't eat that. Nothing. Not good for you. I've come a long way, y'all. But you know what? Because we were willing to stay together in something called a covenant, we were never the same. We persevered. We fight for each other. And you know what? Sometimes we really fight each other. And that sucks. And it's miserable. I made her cry this week. Full disclosure. I was mean. And my daughter Naomi is now old enough to be like, why is mommy crying? And I'm like, because dad is not being nice. That's embarrassing. Super embarrassing. When your children are old enough to really catch you on your crap. And they start calling you out on it all the time. And they're way better at it than you are. And you're like, oh. I am not always a nice person. And you know what? That's because I am so constantly frustrated. I'm perpetually constipated with this constant struggle with where are the righteous rising up. And you know what? We have gone all across this country, 150,000 miles, looking for the righteous. We have been scouting out this nation like spies in the land, trying to find out where does he keep his most precious secrets. Because I was raised in a family where the family secret ruled, where there was a conspiracy of silence to cover up the most evil crimes. And you know what? They were Christians. They were Catholics. They were planted in and around the churches all around. And I would sit in the pew and sit there wondering, when is the guy at the front of the room going to run a spear through this monster's heart who's sitting next to me? I was begging somebody to do it. Begging them. Kill these people. They're torturing me. When will it stop? Where is Yah? And you know what? I had to get up and go suffer more. Because you know what? There's something called the fellowship of suffering in the scriptures. That there are some of us who've been storing it up because others have been abdicating the responsibility to pick up the burden. Many of you have seen the evil happening in your midst, and you've turned a blind eye. You've covered it up. You've concealed it. And you know what? Yahuwah hates that. He says everything they've done in secret is coming out. And you know what? That's why I confess my sins now. And I'll let people put the spirit of my heart for everything I've done. And you know what? If I am to go to death I go rejoicing because I've been waiting a long time for it. I am eager to meet my Maker. And you know what? By His mercy alone, I have an opportunity to come with confidence in that day that there was one who was perfect, who did not turn his eyes away from evil. I do not want any of you to turn your face from evil. I want you to understand it, but I don't want you to embrace it. Don't be awed by their power, by their majesty, by their splendor, by their overwhelming surveillance state. They know nothing of what it means to watch diligently day and night. Yahuwah has never turned away from it. He has never stopped caring for His people. And He has always looked and willing to seek out where are the men and women who are willing to stand up in the face of overwhelming odds and say, you know what? Like Jonathan and his armor bearers, the battle is not determined by strength of arms, by number of troops, but by Yahweh. But I have a question for y'all. What did David kill Goliath with? Nope. Nope.
Sword.
Nope.
Sword.
Sword. David killed Goliath with a two-headed sword. Why? Because it's super good for cutting heads off. Tuck that away. You might need it someday. Listen to me. David didn't kill Goliath with a rock. He killed him with his own sword. And all of the strategies and the plans that they've laid up in store against us, all of the pits they've dug for us, you know what we pray every day? Yahweh let them fall into the pits of their own making. Yeah. You know what? Yahweh loves it. 1,000,000-man army came to kill Israel. 1,000,000 men. Some of you have no idea what that means. Anybody here been a soldier? See that? Come on. Hollis is not raising his hand. Here it is.
Sorry.
Soldiers.
It's up now.
There it is. You know what? Any of you ever seen 1,000,000-man standing army?
Not 1,000,000. No.
No.
Several hundred.
Several hundred. Scary dudes. You know what 1,000,000? You know how long it takes to raise up 1,000,000-man army? Generations. Generations of people raised up an army with one purpose, one design, one destiny: to slaughter Israel, to surround them and blot them out. Anybody ever hear of a guy named Balaam? Oh yeah. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Balaam, because his job in all of his life was, you know what? He should have been a prophet for Elohim. He was entrusted with mighty wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And you know what he did with it? He loved the wages of wickedness. He loved the wages of divination, sorcery, incantation. But you know what? Yahweh raised up someone, one, to thwart his plan, to stop him in his tracks. Yahweh sent one child to deliver the nations from the supernatural, radical, intelligent evil that had surrounded them, that was making them kill their own sons. You think they were just slaves carrying bricks and building the pyramids? Lies you inherited. Vanity. They were not building pyramids, y'all. They were building treasure cities. Because you know what? Some kings know that they should guard their treasures well. So they feared Israel. They feared them so much because in one battle, Israel slaughtered a nation that all of Egypt couldn't stop. Just a couple hundred Hebrews destroyed a nation. And you know what? In their zealousness, they were pissed that the Egyptians had turned like cowards and run. So they cut some of them down. And you know what happened? The Egyptians were filled with fear. And so they devised cunning strategies. This would be like the Council on Foreign Relations, the World Economic Forum, fractional reserve banking, the creature from Jekyll Island, the Rhodes Scholarship, all of these empires that have been built up, the Reynolds family, to slave you all into a system that forces you to give up your rights, to give up your children, and that you would be willing to sacrifice the most precious thing into the fires to the kingdom, to the fires to the government, to the fires to the country, the God of this nation. Yahweh Elohim Sebaoth is his name. It is not G-O-D. The God I swore allegiance to in the United States military was the God of fortune. And you know what I learned? I was a soldier of fortune. And I was furious when I figured it out. Because I hated the fact that deceiving spirits had been sent out into the mouths of the counselors of my kingdom that I was raised in. And I slaughtered for them. I slaughtered thinking I was doing righteously. And in fact, I was one carrying out the very evil that was destroying the lands. But you know what? Praise be to Yah that he raises up men and women who preach from this book and who are willing to say, this is truth, forsaking all else. Balaam loved the wages of unrighteousness more than he was willing to obey the commandments of Yahweh. And because of that, Israel was convinced that they needed to turn and cast themselves and eat the bread, eat the meats of the dead, to sacrifice to the idols, to yoke themselves with abominable things. Baal Peor, the god of many holes. Sexual depravity. That's what Baal Peor means, y'all. This is the nation that we've been given ourselves unto. We are under the influence, the spirits of Egypt still ruling and reigning here and all around us. But you know what? Yahweh appointed children to rise up. Children whose parents did not obey the command of the sovereign, but they prepared an ark for their child to be delivered from all of the darkness that was coming their way. Hebrews 11, go.
Methuselah first.
Oh, what's Methuselah?
Right. Genesis 5:27. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years and he died.
There you go. You get a pocket sword. Yay. You betcha. All right, Hebrews 11.
She's there.
She wins. Do you want to read it loud?
Alright. The whole chapter?
Go to Moses. Ready?
And belief is the substance of what is expected, the proof of what is not seen. For by the elders obtained witness, by belief we understand that the ages were prepared by the word of Yahweh, so that what is seen was not made of what is visible. By belief, Habel offered to Elohim a greater slaughter offering than Cain, through which he obtained witness that he was righteous. Elohim witnessing of his gifts, and through it, having died, he still speaks.
Hold on. Did y'all hear that? Hey, if you're talking, can you close your mouth? Someone's reading some of the most important things that have ever been said in the entire history of mankind. You know what that should say? You should shut up. It's more important than anything you have to say, I promise. I know, that's super offensive, but I'll totally cut your face off with this sword because it's biblical. Ready? Check this out. She just said something so important. By belief, faith, Abel offered to Elohim a greater slaughter offering than Cain, through which he obtained witness that he was righteous. Elohim witnessing of his gifts, and through it having died, he still speaks. It is the blood of these men and women we're reading about that allows us to still speak. We still get our voices, y'all. There are many people that don't have their voice anymore, and they are crying out. Their blood is crying out, and the earth listens. It says the earth has opened up her mouth to swallow the blood of the innocent. And you know what? There's going to come a judgment when it vomits them up and drowns people in it. I have stood in rivers of blood, of innocence. And you know what? It still speaks to me today. And that's why I'm here. Because you know what? They need to be heard. These men and women gave up everything for you to have a chance to know him. They were not willing to sit by idly and watch people perish. The Egyptians made the Israelites through strength of arms, through their mighty army, through their secret police, their defense intelligence agency, slaughter their sons. They put those children in the walls of those treasure cities and made them die in there. They took their sons and put them in brick and mortar and watched them and listened to them while they screamed and died. That's why Yahweh said enough. Enough. And I am looking for men and women who are going to say enough. No more morning after pill. Stop slaughtering your children. Stop giving them over to the idol of your career so that you can have the comforts of Mitzrayim. It is that very reason. The Levites, it says very clearly, did not do it. They knew the Egyptians were liars, just like Hasatan. And you know what? Yahweh warned Cain. He said, your countenance has fallen. But you know what? Sin is crouching at your door. It's desiring to rule you. Resist it. Firm in your faith. Humble yourself, therefore, before the mighty hands of Yahweh. Resist the devil, and he will flee. I have resisted lions. Anybody here ever been fighting with a lion? Anybody? Come on, no. Don't you read this and want to do it? Anyways, there's this guy in here. There's this guy in the Bible. His name's Benaiah. Yeah, Benaiah. He becomes the only guy who stays all the way to the end with David. He's it. He's the last surviving loyal servant of David. All the way to the end. He was there from the very beginning to the end. And you know what he was? A lion hunter. Tell me, children, would you love to hunt a lion? Yeah. Raise your hands if you want to wrestle. Yes. Yeah, some of you lost that along the way. People had to teach you to not think it would be awesome to wrestle a lion. That's super sad. That's so sad. But all my life when I read about Benaiah, it said he climbed into the pit with the lion on a snowy day. And I thought that was the scariest dude on the block. And I wanted to be just like him. And he killed it. And I think he wore it all the time. I would wear it all the time. I think that guy walked around in a lion's cape and everybody knew. Benaiah! Dude, you know what the kind of lions he fought? 10-footers. Yeah, you're all like, mountain lion. I've chased mountain lions. He chased the lions of lions. They're 10 feet long and they weigh 800 pounds. Gigantic creatures. Super savage.
sending the people who are trying to build the bridges to get to cross the sea.
Yes.
We'll get away.
He took their wheels off of their chariots and smote them in the Red Sea.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, listen, there's this guy Benaiah. It said that he climbed into a pit with a lion on a snowy day. And I lived in the mountains of Colorado and Arizona, and I knew snowy days, and I knew pits because I was born into them and made to fight in them. And I always wanted to fight a lion. So when I was down in southern Florida, pruning tomato vines and living like a migrant worker, it was pretty ridiculous.
One day's harvest. 9.5 bins. Tomatoes from one, it's just one greenhouse. Oh, that was really good. Yoo-hoo! From there.
Without linen, praise Yeshua Almighty. What a deliverance that was. These children came running up to me on Thanksgiving Day. Stand fast, stand fast. These children came running up to me and said, "There's a lion!" And I was like, yes! Finally! Now, there's some people from Fish and Game who will watch this and be like, what I'm about to do is super illegal. You betcha. But I've looked diligently in the scriptures and it's not unbiblical. So, I chased that son of a gun. You betcha. There was a mountain lion, a Florida panther, maybe a black panther. Ooh, even scarier. It's a leopard. Leopards, there's one leopard that killed 400 people documented. What? It just loved to kill humans. I like that leopard. I think it's reasonable. I love killing humans, but I do it with this. No more. I do it with this every chance I get. You know what? I wanted to catch this lion and I totally wanted to wrestle it and get a savage scar right across the face. I just thought it would be so savage and what a great testimony. And I was like, I'm going in. So I said, I need my spear. Men, if you don't have a spear, I brought some that you can turn into spears, okay? They're staffs. I recommend hickory or ash, okay? This is Bill, you should be writing this down. Or Chinese cravat. Let me show you one. You want to make one? Get one straight. Wait. Let me turn you in a better direction. Right over there on that barrel. Come on. This is Chinese cravat. People call it a weed tree. And it grows straight and it's super light. And you know what people have been making with it for thousands of years? Staffs, javelins, spears. And it's amazing. That's what I used for this one. When I met some people in Arkansas. Savage Arkansasians. I don't know how you say your names. Y'all are brave. You're brave, y'all. The Ozarks are brutal. Absolutely brutal. People are like, go to the Ozark, it's great. I'm like, except for the climate. They will kill you dead with their ticks. Dadgum ticks everywhere. All of them are junk. I don't like that. Stay out of there. This is Chinese cravat. This would make a great spear. And that's what I see in it every single day of my life. But if you don't, hey, Holly. It'll hit your chili. Yeah, way to go. Benaiah had a spear. He was ready to go. And I had a spear ready to go. It's been waiting next to my RV because I used to chase bears with it back in Colorado. I love bears and I love to chase them vehemently because I've always wanted to kill one too and run it through and then wear its hide. I just thought it was super manly. But you know what? I never caught one. They're way faster than us. They run faster than a horse. Didn't know that until I chased them all my life. I'm still praying for the feet of David. Man, the feet of Naphtali. He can run on the top of the grain of wheat and he didn't break it. That's savage fast. He could outrun a gazelle. And you know what? They're still around today. There's people that outrun gazelles until their heart stops because they overheat. They can only cool themselves off by panting. We can cool ourselves off by evaporative cooling known as sweating. And so people can run them to death. It's amazing. I want to be like that. I'm not. Full disclosure. It's hard for me to run out here. I'm exhausted. It's great. You know what? But Benaiah had a spear ready and so did I. So I said, I need my spear. And they gave me a golf cart so I could go somewhat faster than I could run. I got in the golf cart. The children floundered all around me and I told my wife to get the GoPro. Kid, honey, you gotta film me doing this on the gyroscope because I'm gonna move a lot. So, my wife and I and all the children go back to my RV. I get my spear and I get my machete because that's a way better tool. I've never killed anybody with a spear. I've killed lots of people with machetes. They're short swords. They're great. So I went and got my kukri machete. And you know what we did? We went to the very edge of the property where this lion had been stalking the grounds. We've been finding footprints of this thing all over the farm. And you know what? That's super not okay. And if that comes onto your property, you have every legal right to kill it dead. Only after it kind of attacks you. So, you know, the scar, remember that whole thing? It's legal protection. I could say it attacked me first. Anyways, we get to the edge of the property and there's this giant ladder going over the fence. And you know what? All the children are like, he's over there, he's over there, he's over there. And I'm like, you got it. So I get in there and I'm driving over there with my spear and I'm ready to do this thing. I'm so pumped up. I've been waiting my whole life. I put my headlamp on because I'm going into a pit. Get good night vision. And that's what's called your eyes. You don't need any flim-flam, high advanced technology and thermal, none of that. I gave you eyes. And you know what you can use? A tiny little flashlight and it'll change your life. Carry a flashlight. Thy word is a lamp to our feet and a light unto our path. Psalm 119, the noon. That's so good. If you memorize that, I have a standing thing. I make custom knives, and I made a few of them, and I will give it to anybody who can tell me the entire Psalm 119 chapter. It's mighty, and it might take you a minute. Stand fast for your question, sir. I will be with you in a moment. You chose well with the tooth and the spear. That's a great one. That's sycamore. It'll work great for your spear. It'll great. It's lightweight, and it's strong. You'll do great. And it's biblical. That's hickory. Great choice. That's good. It looks like a bazooka right now. Way to go. So anyways, we go out there with the spear, and I realize I've never climbed the ladder with the spear, so I leave the spear behind immediately, because that seems stupid. I don't know what the heck people did with spears back then, but I was not comfortable with it. But I found the den of the lion, and I'm like, yes! Finally, my dreams are coming true! I climb over the fence, and I come down into it, and it's a straight-up pit, y'all. So exciting. I turn on my headlamp, because a tree had uprooted itself, and something had burrowed in, y'all. And I was like, my day has arrived. I pulled out my machete. Not this one. I recommend a kukri machete. I pulled out my machete, I turned on my light, and I'm like, let's do this! And all of a sudden I hear from my left, nowhere in the pit that I'm in, roar, and I'm like, oh yeah! I'm screwed! I'm in the pit, he's outside of it, and I'm gonna die! No! Little did I know it was the farm manager just being a jerk. Hang in there! At the time, my adrenaline is through the roof, and I'm like, game on! My adrenaline is so high right now, I can see the signs of the heavens. I'm ready for it. I'm like, yes! So I turn to face it, right? And then, out of nowhere, the real lion roars on the other side. And now all the farm manager and all the children are screaming. And I'm like, yeah! And they're like, it's actually over there! It's over there! It's over there! And Florida jungles will kill you dead if you run in them. But this thing suddenly takes off. So I go scampering up over the fence and I start running off after it. I get my spear back because it looks great for the shot. And I'm running, and I'm running, and I roll my ankle and fall on my face so hard. So hard. Meanwhile, the stinking leopard just takes off into the forest like it's nothing. And I realize something super quickly, y'all. If you don't have a firm foundation, you're gonna die. You know what the truth is? It's a game of inches out there, y'all. In a very little step. That's why when Linden sings that song where he says, he will not allow your foot to slip. He who keeps you does not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither... You gotta sing it later, promise? Yes! Yes! He sings it way better. Now, I realized something super pivotal that, you know what? I want to hunt lions. That's a good desire. But you know what Yahweh called me to hunt? The souls of men. Men and women, you were made to hunt the souls of men. We were made to go fish for them. And you know what? We've all done some fishing in our life, and I hate it. It sucks. There's not a lot of catching in my life. So I discovered hunting, spear hunting. I go down into the water and I hunt them diligently. I seek to hunt the souls of men through these words and through these living stones of testimony. And you know what? I know I told a lot of you to be quiet for a while in here, but I want you guys to turn to your neighbors and understand that they have in them the words of testimony that could defeat the very darkness you're facing, that could drive back the fear that is filling your hearts, the dread that may have come upon you, the doubt and the despair, the sicknesses. But you know what? Yahweh said if we turn back to Him and we stop doing things the way the world does, that none of those diseases will cling to us. That healing will flow again from us and from Him, through us, to His people. We are supposed to be the people that shut down hospitals and put the white priests of Hermes out of office. Yeah. That we go in and we administer the healing that is promised to His people by the work of our hands and the words of our lips and the faith that conquered nations. Back to Hebrews 11. Who knows what's the other thing Benaiah killed? Come on. I talked about him earlier. It was a red-haired guy. Remember that? Nephilim. Yeah. He killed a giant. And you know what it said he had in his hand? Hey, my man. I'm going to borrow this staff for a moment. He had this in his hand. It said Benaiah fought an Egyptian giant. Ooh, that's exciting. It says he fought a man of great stature, like this tree. People think they were just big people. Totally missed the boat, y'all. Raised by idiots. By design. You were raised to artificially extend adolescence and socially engineer you to total destruction and stupidity. But you know what? His word is true. They were as big as the oaks. This is a black walnut, it's not an oak, but it's close. As close as I could get. And this thing will rain deliverance down on you in the form of black walnuts that will kill the parasites like the sodomites were suffering from. You know why? This has the deliverance and it's going to rain it down all over the place. Look at how fruitful it's been. You know how I know these are its babies? Because he's the biggest. You betcha. This tree been super fruitful for a long time. You see its children everywhere. You know what it should be? This is like Methuselah. You know what I'm saying? We used to have trees like this all over this country that were living witnesses, living stones, like the oaks of Mamre. They were these amazing testimonies continually proclaiming, be fruitful and multiply. Even if the days are dark, y'all. Hang in there, buddy. I know you love to shout it out. Hebrews 11. I'll call on you when I'm ready. It says that Benaiah had a staff in his hand, and he went up to the Egyptian, and he took the spear out of his hand and killed him with it. You don't even need to bring the gun to the gunfight, y'all. You just go ahead and take theirs from them. It's super biblical. I am telling you. Take this with you and slaughter them. I am serious. This will save you, and it will cut them to ribbons. By belief, Moshe, having been born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a comely child, and they were not afraid of the sovereign's commands. They did not obey the government orders, the CDC guidelines, the initiatives from the World Economic Forum and the United Nations Global Health Initiative. They did not care. They said 4 very powerful words. I do not consent. No. No. You can't have my children. No, I will not give them over to you. This is my body, and you know what? Yahuwah says, don't abominate it. Don't bring in filth into my house. You know what I'm saying? And the job of the priest was to go in and cleanse the temple, to cleanse out these abominations. And you know what? That's why we're all about the garments and the grain and the water. Because with those 3, that the rich and the poor alike can have their bodies be cleansed. They can have healing and deliverance brought to them through the wonderful treasures that he's brought them. By belief, Moshe, having become great, he was at his apex power. He was the son of a sovereign of sovereigns. And he was the Hebrew guy. He knew all the wisdom of Egypt. And you know what? He learned the truth, that it was better. He refused to be called the son of the daughter of Pharaoh, choosing rather to be afflicted, to suffer with the people of Elohim than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, deeming the reproach of Messiah greater riches than the treasures in Mitzrayim, for he was looking to the reward. By belief, he left Mitzrayim, not fearing the wrath of the sovereign, for he was steadfast at seeing him who is invisible. By belief, he performed the Pesach, the sprinkling of blood, lest he who destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By belief, they passed through the Red Sea, as by dry land. When the Mitzrites tried it, they were drowned. By belief, the walls of Jericho fell, having been surrounded for 7 days. The very walls that were built with the babies that were sacrificed in the walls came crumbling down. Your whole life you were raised with this song. London Bridge is falling down, falling down. You know why they sang that? Because they used to sacrifice their children and entomb them in the walls of that building. You know why? To keep the empire alive. Every generation gets tested by seeing whether or not they'll give their children over to the sovereign. If you're willing to put your child to death, you're willing to obey any command because you're filled with shame. You're filled with embarrassment. But you know what? Yeshua came here to show you, you don't need to be embarrassed. You don't need to be ashamed of anything you ever did in the past. Nothing you have done, nothing you have done is unforgivable. Yahweh has extended his hand towards you, and he has testified day and night through his creation that even though it's waxing old like a garment, this tree right here, I know, is waxing old. I can tell by the length of the branches that are coming off of it. He's waxing older and older and older, and yet look at the fertility he still has. Even if you feel like your body is waxing old, even if you feel like you can't get up in the morning and can't go on another day, Yahuwah will give you the mighty set-apart spirit, his Ruach HaKodesh, to fill you with power to overcome the wiles and the schemes of the devil, because he roams around like a roaring lion, seeking those whom he may devour. But you know what? Let us stand firm in our faith, stand firm in our belief, turning back to these people who went before us and showed us how you do it. Moshe cast off the riches of Egypt and went and suffered with his people. That was amazing. That took unbelievable discipline. And you know what? It's miserable. This is literally the name of the state I'm standing in. Stinking misery. People are like, it looks so great out there. I'm like, it's miserable. It's its name. Chelsea keeps saying, why do they call it misery? It's like some evil prophecy. I hate it. I'm like, and then the thousands of ticks descend upon you like the arrows of the Philistines. It's so crazy here. And you know what? It's great sometimes. Good Chip? It's better to suffer with brothers and sisters than it is to suffer in silence and be alone. I have known loneliness. So many of you have looked at me and talked about the hunger in your heart for holding somebody who understands you. Some of you need to weep on each other's shoulders here and confess your sins to another brother so you can be healed. I stood in the waters at Sukkot and I confessed sins to my brothers, and so that I could get healing, because I was not of a sound mind. I was a double-minded man and I was unstable in all my ways. And because of that, I was raising up fruit that looked like me. My children began to act like it. My wife was acting like it. Our home was filled with turmoil, and I was the root of it. So I sat there and I just shamed myself. I came undone. And you know what? I was willing to come undone in this life so that I could have the hold on to the hope that I could be set free now. And I could see my family not carried off into the same generational iniquity that I was raised in. That I could stand here and break the curse. I could be someone who is willing to stand in the gap and suffer so that my family can know peace. Even if I don't know peace every day. Even if I still wrestle and am in anguish. And I still see all the nightmares that are still there. You know what? It's better to suffer with each other than it is to stand alone.
Let's play with the card. No. Let's be fair toys.
By belief, Rahab the whore. Do you think she had some junk in her trunk? Do you think she ever suffered some bondage in her life? Do you think that gal ever seen some horrible things? Had some horrible things happen to her? People abused her and used her. That's what it says without saying it. People trafficked her around from the days of her youth to the days of this moment. When the word came to her, she held on to it. The whore did not perish with those who did not believe, having received the spies with peace. Anybody here who hosted my family, raise your hand. Come on. Come on. There are people here, all around here, who have helped shelter my wife and I as we traveled around this country like spies in the land. They knew my past and they were not afraid of me. They weren't afraid of the people that came and tried to kill us. Not even when it came and caused them all kinds of grief and all kinds of hell. They sheltered us. And you know what she covered those spies with? Flax. You betcha. I realized that flax was totally the best camouflage on the face of the earth. And I didn't need all of the thermal-blocking, insulating ghillie suits that I used to have. I knew that if I hid under that linen garment, Yahuwah would surely shelter me from the storm that was coming. You know what? Those priests had to put on those garments or they died. It says, do not enter my temple with anything wool or that causes your body to sweat. Ezekiel. He's talking about the future, y'all. He's saying you can't even enter that place because you'll die. That stuff back there is fireproof. You know how I know it? I tested it. Go ahead and get all kinds of hot and sweaty and stand in front of a fire in wool. You'll die. It'll kill you dead. And you know what else? I learned something super interesting about nuclear fallout. Anybody ever heard about nuclear weapons? Anybody heard about World War III? Come on. Oh, wow. Y'all were raised in my generation. Don't act like you don't ever heard this stuff. Cold War. Remember when they built bunkers all over the entire country because they convinced us all that they're going to rain down nuclear weapons and kill us all? And people were like, ah! All the time. This is that dang fear just big. This is the spirit of fear. Little mouth. Big words. And you know what I learned? How you protect yourself from radioactive fallout? Water. Just water. Battleships. We have $6 billion United States aircraft carriers. And you know how they cover themselves from nuclear fallout? With 95% effectiveness? Seawater. They just spray themselves and create a water shield, and they plow their way right through it. If you guys would immerse yourselves with those linen garments on, I assure you of this. Yahweh says when you pass into that water, you die. And when you come out, you raise to life. And because of that, you're going to pass through the fires of judgment and come out alive, refined, made into his image like a living stone, like those children back there are digging for. There's gemstones, rubies, and sapphires that have passed through the fires, and they were found overcomers. We are supposed to be built up into this living tabernacle of witness, a holy temple of living stones. And you know what? These are the people who did it. What more shall I say? For time would fail me to relate of Gideon and Barak and Samson, Jephthah and David and Samuel and the prophets, who through belief overcame reigns, worked righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, became mighty in battle and put foreign armies to flight. Women received back their dead by resurrection. Have any of you lost any children in your life? We lost 2 on the road. 2 of my children were buried. I never wanted to bury my children. I wanted them to bury me. That's the way it's supposed to go. But you know what? He gave us 2 for 1. Total miracle. He gave us life back. I confessed those sins. It was my sexual immorality. It was my lust. It was my desire for revenge and riches and honor that drove my family into an unstable life, that drove her in such fear and trepidation that she lost our baby, that our babies were taken from us. But you know what? He gave us twins. And you know what? They should have killed her. My wife was so sick on the edge of death. And after 3 nights of labor, she gave birth to those twins into my hands in a copper pot. I didn't know there were twins in there. And I went to catch the placenta and I caught a baby boy instead. And I was like, oh, it's not a placenta, it's a baby boy. It was crazy. And you know what I knew in that moment? Yahweh is the only one who can raise the dead back to life. And others were tortured, not accepting release to obtain a better resurrection. Others had trials of mockings, floggings, and more, of chains and imprisonment. They were stoned. They were tried. They were sawn in 2. They were slain with the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, being in need, afflicted and mistreated, of whom the world was not worthy. These are the people that I'm looking at right now. I have heard your testimonies, and there is so much need. There is so much suffering and so much mocking. And you know what? The world's not worthy of it. That's why he created the fellowship of suffering. And you know what? With great love and suffering, we will get the gift of endurance so that we can become overcomers. Wandering in the deserts and mountains and caves and holes of the earth, having obtained witness through the belief, and all these did not receive the promise. Elohim having provided what is better for us, that they should not be made perfect apart from us. They're waiting for us. They're waiting for us. There's a great cloud of witnesses waiting for us to choose this day whom we'll serve. And I ask you all to make that choice today, to be willing to hold on to the covenants that you have, to learn about the covenants that Yahweh has for you, and to guard them, to guard your precious ones. And you know what? We want to rejoice with you all and fellowship with you all. We're going to go down in a little bit. Linden and Ruth are going to come right back up here. We're going to savagely worship with our hearts out. And you know what? Then we're going to go down to this water. We're going to be immersed in this living spring water. And we're going to go maybe find a cave. And I'm going to try to bait you all with crazy treasures inside a scary crack in the earth. This will be great. We're going to go into there. We're going to preach the gospel to every creature. Thank you all so much for coming here. And we pray that you will be mighty for Yahweh's ways.